Genesis, Game Gear, Genesis, and now another Game Gear. Well, at least you can't say they aren't pushing this thing, if only the quality of the games themselves match their older brothers. To recap, Sonic 1 is a boring kind of bad, and Sonic 2 is... I don't really see an influential sub-series coming out of these handheld games, is what I'm saying. All that leads us to Sonic Chaos. The first one of these is it trying to trick you into thinking that you'll buy a better game. Will this game make me feel any positive emotion? Only time will tell. I gotta say, I'm very impressed with this game's translation. Maybe someone smarter than me could tell me that sucks, and they'd probably be right. But from where I'm standing, the English story is pretty on point with nothing reduced. The plot here is that Robotnik found one of the Chaos Emeralds, thus throwing off the balance of the other 5, and now South Island will sink to the ocean unless Sonic and Tails act fast. Personally, this doesn't make that much sense to me, but very little about the Chaos Emeralds do, so I'm willing to let it slide. What I won't let slide is the fact that there are only 6 emeralds. I thought Sonic 2 established that there were 7. It's not like they did this because the Game Gear can't handle Super Sonic, since Robotnik's keeping one of the emeralds for himself the entire game. Could they just not think of a 6th special stage? Did they forget? Do the 8-bit games take place in a parallel universe where there are only 6 known emeralds? You know, that last one actually makes sense. I mean, if you think about it, no, that's another subject entirely. Maybe I'll make it short about it. Smooth transition into the levels. What are the odds that South Island has 2 similar, almost identically looking grassy areas? Well, let's see what sets this level apart. Oh, the level's done. Turquoise Hill, like the rest of Sonic Chaos's levels, is not very long. You thought Sonic Forces had short levels? At least those lasted longer than a minute. As a result, a lot of levels in this game are just nothing. No identity of their own, so they ride or die by the theming. And this level's theme is the standard video game first level. I guess we can go over the generics of this game, lacking anything else to talk about. Sonic Chaos debuts the move that its older brother, Sonic CD, is famous for, the Super Peel Out, known here as the Strike Dash. We'll save the discussion around it for another time, as Sonic CD complements the move way better than Chaos. In addition, the Spin Dash makes its 8-bit debut as well as rings during boss acts. The boss here is known as Ladybug, and it's just a bigger version of the Boingobots seen throughout the level. Once again, Yoshi's Island proves to be the only game to understand why normal enemy but big now works for a boss, and that's because additional attacks are granted when a foe becomes a boss. Ladybug is quite literally just a bigger, beefier Boingobot. I admit, the first act of Gigapolis Zone has some extra meat on its bones. It doesn't mean much when Act 2 is shorter than both Turquoise Hill acts. Other than a city-like landscape, the most interesting thing here is probably the diagonal bridges that you'll fall through if you aren't moving fast enough. Besides that, there's some tubes, hidden springs, and a weird gimmick in a boss tag where your choice of what tube to go into determines how many hits the boss takes. The lower the tube, the harder the boss. Of course, that all comes from artificial difficulty that only serves to make the fight longer. Beadworm, the boss in question, is pretty neat. It's actually kind of difficult, for this game's standards. The difficulty mostly comes from the length, as in the physical length. He is really tall, is what I'm saying. It's not much of a challenge, this is still the second level of a Game Gear game, but I do appreciate it. Sleeping Egg literally opens up with you bashing your head against a wall. Well, literally it opens with you bashing your head against 6 consecutive ceilings, but same effect. The visuals of this level don't really do it justice aside from Robotnik's image being shown on the walls. This is actually a floating base created by the Doctor. In terms of theming, this zone is really weak. The game alone was enough to tell me what this level actually was, and that's not very good. This zone's main gimmick, as can be assumed by that riveting beginning, is springs. Here you'll find the Pogo Spring, a special type of spring that you can ride around on and even jump off of to get extra height, as long as you don't run into a wall or take damage. Much like the Strike Dash / Super Peel Out, I like their implementation much better in a later game, this time Triple Trouble. Just like Sonic CD and the Super Peel Out, we will get to Triple Trouble when we get to it. The theme of height is highlighted by the badniks. Frogger, try and guess what it does, and Vegelbot, another jumping robot that surprisingly does not show up in Sonic Spinball. This zone's boss, the Bouncy Boss Robot, forget what I said earlier, the English translation sucks. The Hopping Egg Vulcan is the first boss that I actually consider to be difficult. One thing I do appreciate about this game is that an unthinking player won't get far against these bosses, even the earlier ones. I just wish this philosophy was extended to the levels. Is this the Sonic Superstars of the 90s? It's ironic that I say this now, because while this boss's attack patterns can give you trouble, it's still very hit it until it dies, with no effort being made to figure out how to hit it. It's that arbitrary time of the video where I talk about the special stages. The special stages in this game are, well, there's really nothing to say about them. Most games will have you doing incrementally harder versions of the same special stage to get all the emeralds. This one just kind of throws shit at the wall. Due to the short length of a special stage, I can't say that any of them stick out without future iterations like most special stages have. Now, I am going to just list what they are without actually providing any commentary. Grab some rocket shoes and endlessly fly. Use pogo springs to reach the top of the level. Go through some tubes. The worst obstacle course of all time, and that stupid tube mechanic from 8-bit Sonic 2's Scrambled Egg Zone. You get into the special stages by collecting 100 rings, and the act you're in is completed when the special stage is finished. I apologize for wasting your time, but it would be weird if I didn't mention these. You know, I really question the inclusion of Turquoise Hill when you literally have Green Hill in your game already. It just makes Turquoise Hill even less memorable than it already is. Mecha Green Hill itself is really only noteworthy for absolutely mogging Sonic Forces in one level, doing what that game tried to do for its entire runtime 24 years later. As implied by the name, this level combines the lush and beautiful Green Hill with a technological takeover. Although I think this level fails in truly corrupting the iconic location, as this is Green Hill in name only. Even if you say this is supposed to be the level from the 8-bit travesty known as Sonic 2, I still don't think that's right. This doesn't feel like Green Hills either. Well, that's barely anything. I'll kill time by talking about the rocket chute. This item, only available to Sonic, lets him fly forward for a period of time. Okay, that's still not a lot. Hopefully the boss will provide more commentary opportunities. Tree Crawler is an asshole who completely undermines what I said earlier about the bosses requiring more brain power than the average 2D Sonic game. Look at this. Am I even holding the controller right now? What a sick joke. Aqua Planet may just be the slowest Sonic's ever been in the water. Luckily, you won't notice it, as it's incredibly easy to get to the top of the level, which I will say has a very pretty skybox. This might be the easiest level in the game, and that's saying something, as Mecha Green Hill isn't exactly Eggman Land. I only touched water once and spent most of the level effortlessly dodging the 2 piles of badniks the game saw fit to throw at me. Second to last level, by the way. The boss act starts with a high amount of springs, leading you to deal with some small fry badniks that are noteworthy for taking 2 hits each to put down. After which, the Spherobot arrives. This bot is also small fry, as it is incapable of turning its head, and thus its projectiles around. Things get a bit more interesting during the final hit when it sends out a barrage of missiles, but only a bit. Second to last boss, by the way. Electric Egg pisses me off beyond compare. Well, I suppose there is compare. You could compare it to Scrambled Egg Zone from 8-bit Sonic 2 because for some reason, someone adores the goddamn tube mechanic from that cell. Why? Why is this the second time it appears in this game? The implementation is as god alpha as a special stage, but why? Why do you insist on your players being psychic? This level has other gimmicks, but I really don't care about them, because all I can say is that this level reuses design elements from Scrambled Egg Zone, which I feel should be a sin. I'm mixed on the boss. The Laser Walker is hard, maybe the hardest final boss so far. Despite what it may seem like, I feel that I've let a lot of bosses off easy. The thing is, I'm not here for the bosses, so I'm fine with them being an afterthought. I have a higher standard for the final boss. Previous final bosses have had a pattern. Even the other 8-bit games have had safe spots where you can hit the boss. Here, Robotic is just spamming shit, and he spams nothing like this bouncing laser. I can only assume that this laser is here to address what I said about Aqua Planet's boss. not being able to hit behind it. Problem is, this hitbox is an absolute bitch. You so much as graze that laser and you're dead. Made worse by the fact that you need to hit the cockpit specifically to damage the boss. Anywhere else, you're dealing with huge knockback. All of this could be excused if there is a method to the madness. And I know you're looking at this and thinking, well, of course you're dying, you're not moving from his head. To that, I say that Sonic is slower than he probably should be. I didn't bring it up before because I didn't notice it before, but these lasers make it really obvious. By the time you get to safety, you're immediately in the line of fire again. Any strategy you think of will be thwarted by the fact that Robotnik has no strategy. He's just doing whatever he feels like at that moment. After the laser walker is destroyed, you can still die to the lasers, and there will be one more phase where Robotnik ramps his vehicle into you with really weird hitboxes. Also, the credits don't play if you have all the emeralds. I can't say they were worth it. What can you say about Sonic Chaos? Seriously, I've got no idea. This game feels like what an out-of-touch corporate Twitter account would tweet out with the tagline retro alongside the worst 80s sounding music you've ever heard, even though the game in question came out in the 90s. This game, by design, is incapable of sticking out in the mind with its short levels, or at least in my mind. It's impressive that I made it this far, and I have nothing more to say. C tier.